Progetto pilota, video sperimentale prodotto dalla IA sulla base di una lezione reale. Sono possibili piccoli errori. Pilot project, experimental video created by AI based on a real lesson. Minor errors may occur.
Hey everyone, and welcome! So today we're going to build a really powerful foundation for speaking Italian. We'll be focusing on 3 super essential verb types. And trust me, by the end of our time together, you're going to have all the tools you need to start creating hundreds of your own sentences. Pretty cool, right? All right, let's kick things off with a little bit of a puzzle. Think about this. What in the world could owning a bicycle and feeling hungry possibly have in common? It sounds totally random, I know, but the answer actually unlocks one of the most important verbs in the entire Italian language. And that verb, the answer to our puzzle, is avere. Now, you probably know it means to have, but I want you to think of it as so much more than that. It's not just about what you own, it's like a master key that unlocks a huge part of everyday Italian expression. Okay, now let's break this down. The most important thing to remember here, and I mean really remember, is the pronunciation. In Italian, the H at the beginning of these words is completely silent. It's just not there when you speak. So for I have, it's not o, it's just o. Same for hi, it's I. And a is just a. And anno becomes anno. Let's run through them. Io, ho, tu, I, lui, lei, ha. Then we have abbiamo, avete, and finally loro, hanno. You hear that? No H sound at all. Let's see how this works in a real sentence. All right. Check out this example. Mio fratello ha una bicicletta blu. This just means my brother has a blue bicycle. Pretty straightforward, right? That little word a is the form we use for lui, which means he. So my brother, he has. And what if you want to ask a question? Here we have quanti fratelli hai, which translates to how many brothers do you have? See that I? That's the informal you have for when you're talking to a friend, you know, one person. That little E on the end is your clue. It's your signal that we're talking about tu, or you. And boom, here we are, back to our original puzzle about being hungry. In English, we say, I am hungry. It's a state of being. But in Italian, it's totally different. You say, io ho fame. Literally, I have hunger. This is such a cool and important difference. Italians use avere, to have, for all sorts of physical feelings. You don't are thirsty, you have thirst. You don't are sleepy, you have sleep. It's a whole shift in thinking, and it's all built around avere. All right, so we've got a handle on the super important, kind of weird verb avere. Now, let's move on to the other verbs. You know, pretty much all of them. And I've got some great news for you. Most Italian verbs are actually really well behaved. They follow very clear, predictable patterns. It's basically a simple 3-step recipe. First, you take the full verb, its infinitive form, like parlare, which is to speak. Step 2, you chop off the ending, that are bit. What you're left with is the stem. And finally, step 3, you just stick on a new ending depending on who's doing the talking. It's like a formula. A system. Once you get it, you get it. So, this chart here is your new best friend. Seriously, it shows you all the endings for the 3 main types of regular verbs. But don't get overwhelmed. Just start looking for the patterns. See how for io, for I, the ending is almost always a simple o? And look at noi, for we, it's always iamo. Every time. Getting comfortable with this chart is an absolute game changer. It literally unlocks thousands of verbs. Let's put our formula into action. So, we start with ballare, to dance. It ends in are. We want to say they dance, so we look for loro in the are column. The ending is ano. So we take our stem, ball, and add ano, and we get loro ballano. They dance. See? Simple as that. Okay, next up, un verb prendere, which means to take. Our sentence is about Marta, who is a lei or she. We go to our chart, find the lei row for verbs, and the ending is e. So prendere becomes prende. Marta prende l'autobus.
Marta takes the bus. It just works.
And to round it out, let's do an ire verb, dormire, to sleep. Our subject is il gatto, the cat. Now, in Italian, it uses the exact same verb form as he or she, so we look for lui, lei in the ire column, and the ending is e. Dormire turns into dorme. Il gatto dorme. The cat sleeps. You're getting the hang of this, right? Okay, so everything we've talked about so far involves the action of the verb going outward, right? Someone dances, someone takes a bus, someone washes a car. But what happens when the action is directed back at the person doing it? Well, that's where this really cool category of verbs called reflexive verbs comes into play.
Look at this comparison. It makes it so clear. On one side, io lavo la macchina. I wash the car. The action goes from me to the car. Simple. But on the other side, if I want to say I wash myself, I have to add that little word me right before the verb. Io mi lavo. That me acts like a little mirror, bouncing the action of washing right back onto me.
And of course, every subject, I, you, he, she, gets its own special little pronoun. You've got me for myself, T for yourself, C for himself or herself, and so on. These little guys are so important, and they have one simple rule. They always go right before the verb. And once you know them, you can talk about all your daily routines.
Let's tell a little story, like a morning routine. So, first thing in the morning, mi sveglio, I wake up. Now, the base verb is svegliare, which means to wake someone else up. But since you're waking yourself up, you need that reflexive mi sveglio. I wake myself up.
And what happens next? Poi mi alzo. Then I get myself up. And then e mi vesto. And I dress myself. Getting up, getting dressed, these are all things you do to yourself. So they all need that little reflexive pronoun in front. Mi alzo, mi vesto.
Now, these pronouns have another really clever trick up their sleeve. They can also mean each other. You've probably heard one of the most common ways to say goodbye in Italian, ci vediamo. We translate it as see you later, but what it literally means is we see each other. Isn't that cool? It's a perfect example of how this grammar is baked right into everyday conversation. Wow! Okay, we have covered a ton of ground in a pretty short amount of time, so let's just take a breath and quickly review the powerful new tools that are now in your Italian toolkit.
So let's recap the big three. First, we've got the essential verb avere, which we now know is for owning things, but also for all those physical feelings like being hungry or thirsty. Second, we learned that most regular verbs are our friends. They follow nice, predictable patterns. You just have to learn the endings. And third, we have reflexive verbs, which are perfect for talking about actions you do to yourself or actions people do to each other. Honestly, with just these three concepts, your ability to express yourself in Italian has just taken a giant leap forward.
Think about it. You now have the fundamental building blocks to describe who you are, what you have, the things you do, and even your daily routine from start to finish. That's huge! So I guess the only question left to ask is, what's the first story you're going to tell?